Okay, so up next is adding mods to our server. So G-Portal is pretty good about adding mods. It's pretty straightforward. It's going to show you available mods. There are thousands, so there's no way you're going to go through them all. I am going to recommend to you a handful of very important mods, in my opinion, that tend to be on the most popular PvE servers. Again, you do not have to follow this advice. It's totally up to you. So, first and most important mod of all the mods is going to be Pippi User and Server Management. This was last updated. Remember, this is European ways of listing dates, so this would be February 9th, 2022, not September 2nd, because that hasn't even happened yet. Okay, so we're going to go install, and you can click the workshop link if you want to read up on what the mod does. It'll take you to a web page for that mod. Okay, so we've got that installed. You can see it up here under installed mods. It's not technically installed, it's just added to the list of mods we want. We'd have to activate it in order to actually install it. So for now, we're just gonna leave that be, and we're gonna add as many mods as we can while the server is off. And yeah, so I'm gonna pause this on my end, and I'm going to start selecting a whole bunch of mods. If your mod isn't in this list, which it probably won't be on the first page, you're just gonna go to search, and you're gonna search for the name. You can see I've searched for different mods, and for some reason my book is is in the list of mods. I don't know why. There's not a mod based on my book. I wish there was. If someone wants to make it, I will love you forever. Okay. So I'm going to pause the video here. I'm going to add in a bunch of mods. Then I'm just going to go down the list and show you what mods I chose. Sorry, I know I said I was going to show you all of the mods. Before I do that, I forgot one little thing. Another way you can find out what mods are best for you is you can go to the workshop page. At the moment, I'm using it in my browser. Obviously, you can use it in your Steam client as well. And then you can go to most popular over the time period, I would say 6 months. So anything that's still popular over 6 months generally will be updated, although that's not always the case. And you can see the most popular mods over 6 months listed out here. Archery Evolved, I know that one's a pretty cool one. New Faces, there's all sorts of cool stuff. Anyway, if you want to see the most popular of all time, you go to all time, of course. These are on many servers. Fashionist is one of the most popular mods of all time. I know that. I've seen it on just about every server. Better Thralls. Pippi, as I mentioned before. Pickup Plus, which lets you pick up things that normally you can only destroy. All sorts of goodies. So I'm going to pause this again and add a bunch of mods to my server and explain why I use them. All right, so that took me about an hour to select my mods. Just be happy you didn't have to sit there and watch me do it. It is important that you go through the mods and make sure you know what you want. I'm going to kind of help you understand the differences in each and give you a general idea of what kind of mods you should choose. Okay, so just going down the list as I chose them, I'll try to explain these as quick as possible. If you don't care about what these mods do, you can fast forward, but if you plan to mod your server, you might want to stick it through. This is sort of important. Okay, Litman item stack and container size recompiled. This just makes it so you can increase the stacks up to 10 times and the size of containers as well. If you're fine with the generic, obviously you don't need this. Paragon leveling reloaded makes it so that the game goes up to level 300. This is very important for the Age of Calamitous and the EEWA mods, which I'll get to in a second. So just make sure you're including this. We're going to talk about mod loading order in a moment as well. This is not the correct order. I'll show you that in just a sec. Okay, Dude's Delightful Decorations. This is a content mod. It's just a bunch of new items to add flavor to the game and roleplay items. Endgame Extended Weapons Arsenal. This is one of the two major mods that I'll be putting on my PvE server. This one adds in tons and tons of endgame content, lots of endgame weapons, endgame missions, a whole area you can go to do these missions, and this is a great one. I suggest you look into this. Most active servers I see in the PvE realm have this or Age of Calamitous, usually both. Okay, Savage Steel and Savage Steel 2.0, which is right there. Both of those also are content mods. They add a whole bunch of new weapons and outfits and roleplay items to place in your house. Really good stuff. Same with Warrior Mutator. That is also a content item. Fashionist 4.3 is a content item with some options to change different sliders on your character. A lot of these are going to be content items, which is a good thing because content mods don't tend to stack and ruin each other. They each add unique items. They don't overwrite each other. So these are good. Okay, the most important mod you can have on your server, I think, is Pippi. This is a really cool mod. In fact, I have some tutorials on this channel about how to program NPCs for quests in Pippi, how to make kits, all sorts of stuff. And I'm probably going to do a refresh course on those pretty soon connected to this tutorial. Next up is KPL Smooth Leveling Add-on. If you plan to have Age of Calamitous, just also include this with your other KPL, with your other Paragon leveling. Don't ask why, just do it. It just makes it so that you level properly from levels 1 through 300 instead of it getting broken, because Age of Calamitous only goes up to, I think, a level 120, and so it screws everything up. So just make sure you include this as well. Less building placement restrictions. This is one of the most common mods I've seen on servers aside from Pippi. This just makes it so that if you're placing like a roof tile over a foundation, you can do that. In the base game, you generally can't, because it's saying, why would you put a roof there when you as a player maybe want to put a roof tile there because it looks really cool as a piece of flooring or something like that. So this reduces a lot of those restrictions. Immersive Armor, another content mod, adds in a bunch of armors. Emberlight, content mod. Savage Steel we already talked about. Unlock Plus with pickups. So this makes it so that you can lock and unlock containers, and also that you can pick up just about every item in the game. In the base game, as far as I remember, you can't like pick up a roof tile, for instance. You have to destroy it and you get some of the materials back. This makes it so you can literally pick up the tile and place it somewhere else. If you think that makes the server a little too easy, you might want to skip this, or at least disable the pickup portion within the mod settings in the game. Posav's Custom UI mod is a pretty cool mod that lets players change their UI to their liking, which is kind of cool. It gives your players a little bit more freedom, and you just have to enable it in the game. I might show that here a little bit later. Okay, better Thralls. Your Thralls are a little bit smarter. They level up with you, so if you're killing enemies, they share the experience, which is pretty cool. Age of Calamitous, this is the other major mod that you're going to put on your server. This one adds in an entire quest line. It's a whole new world, a whole new storyline that nestles in really nicely with the normal Exiles gameplay. This is a cool mod. I strongly recommend it on any PvE server. Maybe not on PvP servers, because the magic can be very powerful, but PvE for sure. Now this is a new mod. I've never actually played this, but I am installing it on my server because I've read some news articles on this. This is a really popular up-and-coming mod. It's been gaining a lot of popularity. But basically, supposedly what it does, again, I haven't tried it, is it makes it so your Thralls during the day and night are doing their own thing. So if you're not running around with them following you and they're back at your base, they'll run around and they'll work out during the day, they'll run patrols, and at night they'll sit around the campfire and socialize, and then late at night they'll lay down and go to sleep. So it makes your server feel so much more alive, supposedly. Again, I can't vouch for this yet, I'm about to try it. But like if you're like me and you love making server cities as an admin, and you want to make like a central city that players come visit, and you want that city to look more alive, more realistic, this mod is probably for you. I'll let you know though. I'm gonna try it out here shortly. Configurable elevators, not as vital to a good server, but it is a pretty cool one. It lets you change the speed of your elevators. So if you think that, especially if you're playing Isle of Sipta and you've got tree houses where they're up in those massive redwood looking trees, you can change it so elevators go faster, so players don't have to wait forever for their elevator to go from bottom to top. Again though, this isn't a vital one. Immerse RP, buildings and placeables decor, yet another content mod. Beyond decor, another content mod. So you'll notice that probably 80%, 75% of my mods are content mods. They just add in things you can build, things you can place. There's a couple others I didn't add, like Barbarian Barber, which adds in like 2,000 hairstyles, but also is like a 2 GB download. And then improved quality of life. I think that one may actually be outdated and no longer work. So there's a lot more. And one warning I want to give you before we move to the next section is be cautious about adding your mods, because content mods and specifically like Savage Steel, Warrior Mutator, and whatnot, those are 3D models. 3D models take up a lot of space on a hard drive. So if you've got something like, for example, where is it here? Beyond Rustic, which adds like 2,000 items, I think. Let's see if we click on the workshop link. It says, yeah, over 2,000 items are added to the game, which is super cool because I love the roleplay aspect of this game, the decoration stuff. That is all like, man, that's a great part of Conan. But look how much the download is. 1.337 gigs. That is a huge download. And that's not even all that big compared to some others. I think Savage Steel is like 2 gigs maybe. So each content mod that you add to your game is going to significantly increase the download size of mods. Players looking for a server, if they connect to a server that has 30 content mods, it's going to take them an hour or two just to download all the content, and they're going to say screw it. They're going to log off and go find another server, at least in my experience. So I try to keep my content mods down to 10 gigs or less total. All these content mods probably equal out to 15, but still, this is only 20 some odd mods, and man, I've seen some that are much bigger than that. I was just on a server earlier, 50 mods. Okay, so we already have our server name. Now this makes a little bit more sense. Level 300 is the max on our server. AOC-EWA means Age of Calamitous. Endgame Extended Weapons Arsenal. These are 2 major mods that a lot of more veteran players love, so you want to advertise that. And then Fast XP, which I'll explain once we get in the server. But first, we're going to start our server. Now, we can't change the mod order until we start the server, at which point then we can change it. So basically, we're going to have to restart our server a couple times. So we're going to activate these mods. Oh boy. Try that again. Activate. Yeah, it's not going to do it. Okay, let's try that again. I tried to activate these, but they won't activate if the server is turned off. So we're going to turn the server on. It's most definitely going to break. So we want to do all this work before we turn the server on. And then once it's on, we're going to activate all of our mods. So let's let it load. You can see the little loading thing is going along here. The first time you load your server in particular, it is going to be rather slow because it's starting up for the first time. It's creating all the cache files and save files and everything else. And it's updating the version of the game to the most recent version. Also, every time your server restarts, whatever mods you have active, at the moment we don't have any, but you will, all the mods that you have active will also be checked for updates. So, for example, EWA gets an update all of a sudden, then my server will go, hey, this is needing an update. Up here, G-Portal is pretty good about this little pop-up notification that will say, some of your mods are out of date and require a restart. So you're going to do that restart, and it's going to update those. We'll get to that later. Right now, it's just updating and starting. So I'm going to pause on my end, and we'll come back when it's done doing its initial update. Okay, here we are. As I suspected, it took about 5 or 6 minutes for the server to actually boot. This is totally normal. Don't freak out. Okay, so now we're going to activate mods and go through the difficult part, which is going to require a couple restarts because we're going to change mod order. So it should allow me to activate these. I should be able to just hit activate all. Your mod is now active. Well, they're not technically. There we go. Okay. Now it will put things in order that it thinks is best. Boy, I speak English. This is generally a pretty good order, but I do want to show you something. Oh, by the way, it says there are changes or updates available for your mods. You have to restart your server to apply them. That's what I was talking about earlier. So we'll just restart our server once and it should update those, but we're not going to do that just yet. I want to show you a cool little guide. This is from the less building placement restrictions mod. They have a pretty neat little list that helps you understand what mod order you should be loading. Your first mod you ever want to load is going to be Pippi. Pippi thinks it should load last. I think on their page they say to load it last, but it doesn't really need to. Pippi can load first because it accesses all of your items and 3D objects through a database, an active database. It doesn't preload them, so it can be done first. If you didn't understand what I just said there, that's okay. Just load Pippi first. Then up next is going to be what I was calling content mods, any mod that modifies or creates new buildings, placeables, pets, or thralls. So generally, if I go over here to content, fashionist is content. This is not content, so we're going to move this in a minute. Content. Well, not really. We're going to move this after content as well. Most of our stuff is content, though. Okay, so yada. Then some other stuff, additional features, workbench, unlock plus tends to be near the end. So what we're going to do is we're going to find, let's see here, less building placement restrictions. So we're going to move that way down the list. Each time you move it, it reloads the page, which, yes, is a bit of a pain in the butt. So you're going to see this next bit in fast forward, and then I'll explain what I did. Okay, one quick note. We're going to pause the fast forward. The Paragon leveling mod you want to put in before AOC and Iwa, just because this affects your levels, and these two mods change your maximum levels. So you want to do this before those two mods, and then put this mod that kind of corrects some of the issues that this mod causes. With these two mods, you want to put it last. I know that's a little confusing, but just follow. Whenever you download a mod, just look at the load order. Sometimes they'll mention it. If they don't, it's probably a content mod and requires no load order. It's very important to read the information on the mods you download. Don't just click them and assume they'll work fine. Okay, so Paragon leveling, AOC, Iwa, smooth leveling. Okay, back to the fast forward. Here we go. Okay, there we are. We should be good. Let me double check. Yes, we are. Okay, so here is your mod load order. Pippi is first, almost always. After that are content mods, Fashionist, Emberlight, Immersive Armors, and so on. Oh, I missed one. UI mod goes after content, so one sec. Okay, there we go. Anyway, content mods are 1 through 11, or 1 through 10, excuse me. So I have 10 different content mods, actually 9, excuse me. Pippi doesn't count. So Pippi, content mods, which add items to the game. You always want to add items first because they generally don't affect any sort of gameplay. So you want to load them first and just get them out of the way. Up next is going to be your hardcore gameplay changes. So Paragon leveling adds it to level 300. It's 60 by default. Age of Calamitous, Iwa, and then the leveling reloaded smooth leveling add-on, which makes it so that these two mods don't break this mod. I know it's a little confusing, but it is what it is. Then up next is going to be Thralls, building placement restrictions. Basically everything else that changes features in the game comes after these two primary mods right here. And then Thralls Are Alive is my last one, and I just because it is, there's no real reason behind that. I have a total of 21 mods, which, like I said earlier, is actually not that much. I've changed all I want to change. Now I need to actually restart the server. So I'm gonna hit restart. It's gonna stop the server first. Then it's going to start the server and it's going to go through the mods and make sure that each of them is properly updated. And it will also change the order in which they load. Now, if we're very lucky, this will load the very first time. It says online, but that can be a little deceptive. Conan servers are pretty heavy on database loads. There's a lot of data, especially when you have content mods like this. So you're gonna want to give your server about 5, 6, maybe even 10 minutes if you really want to be sure. Because right now, even though it says it's running, it's really not. In fact, the players just disappeared from right here because it's in the boot up process. If you really are impatient, you can go over to logs and you can actually watch the logs as the server loads. But if you're like me, you're just gonna wait about 5 to 10 minutes, go get a drink of water, whatever you want to do, and come back and it should be loaded. The next step of the process is going to be starting up our Conan client and seeing if we can find our server on the first try. One other note before I end this section, right here, when you see it say players, whatever out of whatever, that's when your server should be fully loaded, because it won't give you a player count until the server starts reporting back to gPortal. So until then, your server is not ready, and we will return and play some actual Conan Exiles. Let's hope it works the first time.